This is The Clash, where the real world clashes with a true Christian worldview. Join former professional wrestler Chris Whaley, known as the Masked Saint, who is an author, pastor, and teacher that brings his wrestling skills into the squared circle and tackles real-life issues. Along with Jeff Dixon, best-selling author, internationally known teacher, leader, and pastor who is not afraid to tackle the tough issues of the world we live in. Together they form a tag team of wisdom in The Clash.
Hi, welcome to The Clash, where we take a Christian worldview, allow it to clash into the culture around us, and when we're done, we create moments that hopefully will educate, entertain, and enlighten you. I'm Jeff Dixon. I get to be one of the people that you get to see for a couple of minutes, but the real host of this show is sitting next to me. He is the one, the only, the Saint, Chris Whaley. Chris, how you doing?
Doing great, man. Excited about today.
I am excited about today because this is not the normal show.
Nope. No, this is special.
I mean, it's so special, it's twice as long as normal.
Right, an hour, man.
We have an hour special. It's our first ever special here on The Clash. And, well, we've got something very exciting that we wanted to show people.
Yep. We have the world premiere of the trailer for a movie that is coming out in October called The Jesus Tapes. And so we're going to watch that trailer for the very first, the world is seeing this trailer for the very first time. And we can do that right now.
Right now. Let's do it.
Right now.
Bad news, last minute cancellation.
So who's the next guest?
There's a guy in the lobby who wants to go on. He says he's Jesus.
This is a practical joke, right? I mean, what is your real name?
I have many names: Yahuwashi, Yeshua, Messiah, Son of Man, the Good Shepherd. But you can call me Jesus Christ.
A tense situation is developing here over the broadcast of a fake Jesus.
I do not know the man who called himself Jesus.
What if you are the answer to your prayer?
The Bible is clear that they're false prophets. Don't believe them.
All right, people, let's go.
There is no place for Jesus on television.
People will hate you because you follow me.
The Jesus hoax is the latest con in a very long list of scams.
There is not a single reason to put a Jesus imposter on my television station.
Why the hell did you destroy the footage?
Give us Jesus, or I can lock you up and throw away the key.
I don't know, maybe it was him.
Do you really think that you can fool God? He knows you.
Okay, that's it. Heard enough.
No, I'm not done.
Jesus requires faith.
Try a stunt like this again, and I will destroy you.
Why don't you choose me? I died for you.
This conspiracy between the host and wannabe Jesus.
CIA, the FBI can't find this guy. What makes you think you can find him? Where is the body?
I don't know.
You've been in hiding. You've lost everything. Tell me, was any of it true?
That's for you and everyone else to decide.
Was that trailer incredible or what?
No doubt about it. It's going to be fun. Can't wait to see it.
It's going to be awesome. And the great thing is, Jeff, we have with us the director of the Jesus Tapes, the writer-director of the Jesus Tapes, and we have two of the producers. We have Rick Pamplin, who is the director. We have Maggie Pamplin, who is art and also a producer. And we have Scott DuPont, who is a producer of the movie. Welcome. We are so excited to have you guys and hope you're ready to answer a bunch of questions.
Ready.
Are you
Yes,
ready?
We're ready. So you are the creative team behind the Jesus Tapes, right?
Correct.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, Rick, I'm going to lob this one at you first because this is the one that you'll be asked a million times. But where in the world did the idea come to you? When did it come to create this thing called the Jesus Tapes?
It came in November of 1977.
Oh, wow.
Yes, I was very lucky. I moved out to Hollywood from Michigan, and I'd accidentally moved in next door to Sylvester Stallone. This was in June of 19 76. And I spent about 6 months hanging around with him, watching Rocky, telling him how great it was. And I was going to school. I was studying acting. I was studying writing, finishing my bachelor's degree. And Stallone, so I started writing interviews about Sylvester Stallone. Nobody had ever heard of him. And so I would sell them to magazines and newspapers and different things. And he said one day, he goes, hey, Rick, I ought to interview Talia Shire. And Talia Shire had starred in The Godfathers, Marlon Brando's daughter, and received an Oscar nomination. And she played Adrian in Rocky, which she also got a Best Actress Academy Award nomination. And she was a real inspiration of my life. And I did everything from babysit to read scripts to just be welcomed into the Coppola family, one that was creative and inspirational and so inspiring for me. And I went on and got a master's degree, and my area of concentration was screenwriting. And I was able to interview Francis Ford Coppola as part of my master's thesis through to my connection with Talia and her lovely family. So we used to talk about movie ideas all the time, like, well, what makes a great movie? So in 1977, NBC decided that they were going to take, like, I think it was like 2 or 3 nights and just show The Godfather with limited commercial interruption. So Talia introduced it. I think about 60 million people watched. I mean, it's just a huge, huge event. And so when we were working on that, she said to me, my brother made a movie about the mafia. These people, they kill people, they steal, they do all these things. And she said, look at all of the media attention The Godfather's got, from winning the Oscars. Now, NBC is devoting night after night to this story. And she goes, it's so immoral. And she said, what do you think would happen if Jesus came back? She said, do you think NBC would give Jesus 3 nights on network television? Do you think anybody would be interested? And before meeting Talia, I had worked for CBS in Michigan as a news reporter. I was an on-the-air news reporter for a CBS station, WEYI, in Flint, Saginaw, Bay City, Midland, Michigan. And I had worked with Walter Cronkite, who was then the active managing general, partner of CBS News. And I had worked with some shows that were on the CBS Evening News with Walter Cronkite. I had also done some shows that were on the CBS Morning News with Hughes Rudd. So I had worked with network television, local television, and I had been in the news business for about 1.5 years, and as on-the-air talent and a reporter. And I said, I don't think so. I don't think they would even listen to Jesus. Jesus, he lived 33 years. He spoke 33,000 words. He was poor. He traveled around and preached. He, didn't have an elaborate house, didn't have a publicist, didn't have all this entourage. And I said, I don't think that they would listen to him. So we talked about this a lot. We had some wonderful conversations. So over the years, as I became a screenwriter and sold movies to Disney and Warner Brothers and all these places and worked on all kinds of big movies, I would pitch the Jesus tapes. And people would go, no, we're not interested in Jesus. We're not interested in religion. And then I had sort of a benchmark experience. I was hired as one of the writers and creators of Gorgeous Ladies of Wrestling, the original TV series. And I was hired in Los Angeles, and we went to Las Vegas, and we were staying at the Riviera Hotel. And I was hired as not only the head writer, but I was also hired as a director, like the first assistant director. I think they called it associate director. So when we were writing those shows, we would have women violently beating each other up. We would have people getting hurt in the ring. And this was approved, Saturday morning television all over the country. Gorgeous Ladies of Wrestling was a huge hit. So we got these notes from Standards and Practices for an independent syndicated TV show. And it said, you cannot mention Jesus Christ in a favorable way unless somebody is saying, oh, Jesus Christ, or oh, Jesus. If you do it in a derogatory manner, it's acceptable. But if you do it in a positive affirmation of faith, we're not going to allow that. We don't allow that. That's terrible. So it struck me that we're doing all this violence in the wrestling ring. And a lot of it was pretty graphic. And I'm like, but we can't say, let's say a prayer at the beginning of the show. We can't pray for a woman who's injured, who's being carried off in a stretcher. And, over the years, I got more and more disillusioned. And I tried in the late 70s and the 80s and the 90s, to get this movie made, to try to say, and as the world, in my opinion, in my generation started failing, and I'm like, and I would go to different churches and I would try to talk about things I was interested in. That's the other part of the story. When I would try to ask what I thought were essential Jesus questions that I wanted to ask Jesus Christ. And the church, the more I studied Jesus, the more I realized, whoa, this is a lot of organized religion is merchandising Jesus and selectively editing Jesus. I've had investors when we were trying to raise money for the movie say, well, Jesus was never angry. Someone saw the trailer, one of our investors, and is very mad because Jesus was never angry. Well, yes, he was. Jesus was. When he went to the temple and overturned the tables, he was angry. And then we have some humor in the movie. And other people have said, oh, Jesus had no sense of humor. Well, actually, he did. He did have a sense of humor, and he pulled practical jokes on the disciples. And it was interesting to me, the more I learned about Jesus in my lifetime, the more I realized we're not really disciples of Jesus. We're just feeling good enough about ourselves to pretend like we're true disciples of Jesus. We're not really doing what Jesus said to do. And I would go to church after church after church, and the sermons kind of dealt in the same areas, but didn't talk about when Jesus was resurrected and went to the Sea of Galilee and met with the disciples. And the disciples said, what do we do? And he gave very specific instructions. And thank goodness Mel Gibson's making a movie about the resurrection, so a lot of this can get out. And by the way, all praise, all salute to Mel Gibson for actually activating in people deep feelings. The highest grossing independent film ever made, The Passion of the Christ. God bless Mel Gibson and all the people that work with him. We love those people. Okay, So I was greatly inspired, by the way, by that. And by the fact that no movie studio would fund. Here's Mel Gibson, one of the biggest movie stars of our lifetime. He goes to the movie studios in Hollywood and they won't fund his film. And he puts up his own money and then nobody will distribute it. And Mel has to put up another $5 million to distribute it himself. And then it becomes the highest grossing independent feature film in the history of cinema. There are more Christians and people wanting to hear about Jesus than there are people wanting to see bad horror films or bad pagan films or films of revenge or films of immorality. They're there. We've got to reach them, and we've got to go around, all of these walls and all of these blockades, and we've got to reach them. Okay. So I know you guys wanted me to talk for an hour, but I'll stop there. And I apologize. I'm a little slow today. I don't have all my full passion. Maybe I can get up to my real passion about this. But Maggie was instrumental in the development, and Scott was the angel who was able to make the film get made from 1977 to 2026. So
Right.
Maggie joined me when we got married 24 years ago, and she became integral in discovering a book and discovering a very famous quote, controversial quote by a science fiction writer. And then Scott became instrumental, the man who single-handedly got the film funded and made. So I'd like to let them talk as well. And thank you for having me on your show. And I'll try to give shorter answers from here on.
Okay. You're doing great. Right. Well, Maggie, if you wouldn't mind, let's hear this quote. And Scott, jump in there as well. Let's now bridge this gap from this this vision that comes out of the 70s for Rick. I mean, and now here we are, 2026, on the verge of this movie premiere. We came a long way there in a short amount of time, Rick, so we did good. But so Maggie, pick up the story at that point.
Well, the quote that I can tell you is one that Rick and I have discussed over the years since we've been married, and it's Kurt Vonnegut, and it's, if what Jesus said was good, what can it matter whether he was God or not? Now, it's interesting, the quote so I do the clearances for the film. I work with a clearance attorney, and I had to source this. So going through reading interviews, and finally I found it up in Macon, Georgia. He said it at a commencement address, and there it was one of our main concepts of the film. Is like, even if you're not a Jesus person, what about what he said? I mean, let's just think about what he said. What does it matter if we all do what Jesus said, whatever your belief is? Then the world would be so much of a better place. And that was the quote that we found. And it's interesting how it's pulled in. One of my good friends is a Catholic, and she's gotten away from the church. She's not really sure about the direction of it. But she said, once I saw that quote on your poster, I want to see the movie. I really want to see what you say. And she said, absolutely, listen to Jesus. Just do that.
Okay. Scott, you got any?
Another quote? No quotes. But I can tell you a little bit about how the movie started coming together in terms of the funding. Because if you don't have any money, there's no movie. So I was over at Universal Studios in the producers building back around 2001. Rick and I had become friends. We were both doing our own separate movie projects, and I had met Maggie there as well. And I was sitting on Rick's couch. He had the corner office in the producers building. He took over from Ron Howard, who had just left. And Rick's going on about all these movies or whatever. And then he mentioned the Jesus tapes. Tell me about that. That sounds interesting. And in one sentence, Rick hooked me. He said, it's the Blair Witch Project meets Passion of the Christ. And I'm like, wow, that's really what the movie is. So we finally, Rick did a bunch of movies. I did a bunch of movies. We did 2 or 3 movies together. And then I think it was the cover of Newsweek a couple of years ago, maybe 3 or 4 years ago. Maybe 5, and it said, the Jesus Revolution, the front cover of Newsweek magazine. Faith-based movies are here, they're coming, and they're not going anywhere. So it was a really gripping title, and that was about the same time that the movie, The Jesus Revolution, came out. And Rick calls me up, said, I think we're ready to make the Jesus tapes. So I got on the phone, called a bunch of people. Howard Farling, who's our co-producer, he called a bunch of people, and we put the money together. And once you have the money, you got a great, brilliant writer-director like Rick Pamplin, you got a great movie.
Yeah, that's excellent. Rick, I know you've been really inspired and touched by a book that came out in, I think, 1929.
1927, right.
1927.
Right.
Tell us, because I think that also has been an inspiration in this movie, right?
My wife and I had gone to Branson, Missouri, and we had been involved in the Jim Bakker TV show when he got out of prison. And we were going through all kinds of, like, how do we connect in our faith? We were constantly going through this in our marriage. How do we get with our faith more? And we were looking at things, and we were talking to people and, talking about the Jesus tapes and different projects and how do you give yourself over. So Maggie and I got to a point when we were putting together a Christmas catalog for Jim Bakker. And we talked about the fact that wouldn't it be great if Christians only bought Christian products? Then if they just started, stop giving money to companies that worked against Christian values or weren't Christian or were pagan. So out of that, Maggie and I started not giving out secular Christmas gifts. So we started trying to search for different gifts that would be about our faith. And Maggie found, and I give her 100% of the credit, a book that changed my life and may change all of yours. I think it changed Scott's. And at the end, Scott's going to tell you how it's now part of the movie, because we have an exciting announcement, not only in the world premiere of the trailer. Thanks, guys, for showing it. Thanks for letting us be our first media interview with you guys. We're honored to be here. But Scott's going to make an announcement. But this is the book, which was then out of print. It's the complete sayings of Jesus Christ, written by a gentleman named Arthur Hines. And what had happened in the 20s, a lot of faith-driven people were fed up with organized religion. And they thought it had become monetized. And they thought that the words of Jesus were being merchandised and lost. So they went in and they researched, and they used the King James Version of the Bible as their source. And they made a book of the 33,000 words that Jesus spoke without all of the explanations, interpretations, and all of that. And they did it in chronological order. So if you're interested in Jesus and you want to know what Jesus said on earth, you read the book from the beginning to the very last words he spoke. And if it doesn't change your life, check your pulse, because it's an unbelievable book. And in my mind, the movie became the 33,000 words Jesus Christ spoke on earth and the Kurt Vonnegut quote. That became the movie. So, Maggie, just explain a little bit of the process that you went through to find the book and what it meant to you.
Well, I think that
I'm now hijacking the show. I'm now asking questions.
You're good. Yeah. Maggie, that's a great question. Why don't you answer that for us? That'd be good. So.
Well, fantastic. Thank you. Well, I think that what's so essential about the book is how it tears away the context. And it takes just what Jesus said, and you're able to walk through it, like Rick was saying, chronologically, and just being able to finally find it. And it was, like Rick said, it was so small, and being able to turn it into a PDF, and we have a binder, and just we're able to go through it and talk about it. It's just been such a great touchstone for us, and this is what we're trying to do. And 99 years ago, Arthur Hines saw the same thing, how essential it is to just have the words, and you're not going through the Bible looking for the red words. It's just being able to sit with it and go through piece by piece it's a fascinating way to look at the Bible and Jesus's context in it.
When the book was published, since then, there have been 14 new Bibles published, all of which changed things Jesus said. So my attitude was, hey, the King James Version they used in 1927 was kind of covered 2,000 years. I'll kind of stick with that. I don't need new interpretations. And now there's all this controversy that people are coming up with new things Jesus said, but there's no real source for it. And there's this huge controversy. To me, this is a turnoff. All of the man-made rules what are there, like 2,400 Christian religions? And they all have different rules. If I'm a disciple of Jesus, all I care about is what Jesus said. I don't care what 2,400 religions say and their interpretations. And I don't believe in all their man-made rules. And I don't believe, for example, in prosperity preaching. Jesus did not want us to come here and make ourselves millionaires and exploit poor people. And all these people with these $18,000 gold toilet seats and private jets. And I don't mean to offend you guys, because I know you guys have private jets, and I know you have gold toilet seats.
That's how we got here today, yeah.
I understand all that. But I'm saying that's not what Jesus said. Jesus said, take care of the widows and the orphans. Jesus said, love your neighbors yourself. Jesus said, stop war, feed the hungry, house and clothe. And I would say that includes medicine. And all that stuff today is denied to people. The other thing, and I'll throw this over to Scott to talk about the book and to talk about what I'm going to say. So we did this research, and 2.4 billion people believe and follow Jesus. Well, that's great. That's 1 out of every 3 people in the world. But then we realized that was great for raising money. Because our last movie, as you guys know, because I did a show with you, was about Burt Reynolds, and it was very successful. And one day I was getting my eyes examined, and my eye doctor, who was a big fan of the movie, said, how are you going to top Burt Reynolds? And I said, well, my next movie's about Jesus, the most famous person that ever lived. And he was like, oh my gosh, that's great. And I told him the story. And I would go out and do all my doctors. And I'd tell them, and I knew when the doctors loved the story, and I was telling people, everybody's like, that's a movie I want to go see. That's interesting. I'm really interested in what Jesus said without all of the spin and the man-made this and the rules and all that interpretation. So this movie is you can go to the theater, which is where it's opening, and you can sit in the dark and you can talk to Jesus and you can establish a relationship. And we've done a couple screenings, and it changes people's lives. You don't have to pay money. You know, some of these churches now, you have to pay to go to church services. Oh, I live in Palm Beach.
I haven't heard of them.
I live in Palm Beach, and if you want to go to Tabernacle and you're Jewish, you have to pay money. It's like this is ridiculous. And a lot of these organized religions are charging people money. No. You can have a relationship with Jesus at the end of this show. You can reach up to Jesus and ask for forgiveness, but you must forgive yourself first. But you can change your life. And you can go see our movie, and Scott's going to tell you at the end how you can get this book, because we're republishing this book after 99 years. Because this book has got to get out there and reach people. And nothing wrong with going to church. Nothing wrong with being part of a church. That's fantastic. But first, learn Jesus's words and find a church that is supportive of Jesus's words. Don't go to a church that tells you what Jesus said or edits what Jesus said. So that's kind of our mission. But so Maggie or I or both sent Scott the book. And Scott, you can tell them your reaction to the book and all of this stuff I'm saying.
Jeff, you want to toss me the question, or I'll just go right into it?
Yeah, well, Scott, tell us what your take on the book was when you got the book.
Yeah.
How about that? I did good, didn't I?
So I was blown away. Like Rick, I absolutely agree. I've tried to read the Bible cover to cover several times. It's a very thick book. There's so much stuff around the actual words Jesus spoke. And the beauty of this book, published in 1927, which became a New York Times bestseller for 2 years in a row, which is very, very rare, is it's chronological. It's really, really short. It's easy to read. And I don't think I've ever read a more inspiring or empowering book in my entire life, because everything that Jesus spoke, the actual 33,000 words, was positive, inspiring, meaningful. It was common sense. And so I was like, wow. So anyway, that was my take on the book, and everyone else that's been able to find one. So what happened was, when you're releasing a movie, and Maggie really does most of the work with our entertainment clearance lawyers, there's a lot of stuff that has to be cleared. A picture in the background, anything that's spoken, any music, any artwork, all has to be cleared. So we had to get this book cleared. And then we were thinking about, Rick was, hey, why don't we see if we can put out a book? And not as many people read books these days as see movies, because movies, you can 80 or 90 minutes, you're in and out, it's easy. So we thought it'd be a great idea as a promotional tool if the book was out about the same time as the movie. If someone wants to read the book, great. But hey, if they say, hey, it's also a motion picture only in theaters, they might go see the movie. So great cross promotion. And so our entertainment lawyer researched, yeah, it's definitely, the copyright has expired. It's in public domain now. And Rick's like, well, I really, really want to use the original Complete Sayings of Jesus by Arthur Hines, and I want to make sure we give him his credit, because the book was so inspiring to all of us. So our entertainment attorney, Michael Donaldson, said, hey, I really, at this point, just to button it up 100%, I really got to send one of my partners who's in Washington, D.C. to walk across the street to the copyright office and check it out. So they walked across the street to the copyright office, found the book, researched it, we got all the clearance. So when the movie is in theaters, October 9th, about that same time, there will be a book called the Jesus Tapes book, which will have the Complete Sayings of Jesus by Arthur Hines. It'll have the final shooting screenplay, which a lot of people are interested in reading screenplays after they've seen the movie. And then it'll also have a list of all the cast, crew, and investors who made this movie possible. So we're excited about it.
Very cool. That's exciting stuff. I like it.
Very good. What was the biggest challenge? And I don't care who answers. What was the biggest challenge in making this movie?
I can jump in, and then I'll toss it to Rick. So I think it was like, correct me if I'm wrong, like a week before we're about to roll cameras. We're all down in Palm Beach County where we're filming. And the DGA, the Directors Guild of America, said to Maggie, because Maggie was dealing with the DGA, I don't think we're going to be able to give you your waiver, so I don't think you can shoot the movie. That was a little bit of a challenge.
Yeah, Maggie can speak to this in detail, although we really don't want to get too far into it. I've been a member of the Directors Guild of America for 29 years. One of the great honors of my life, I was nominated for a picture I did with Ernest Borgnine Hoover on the ballot for Best Director. I'd been in their magazine. I had spoke at film festivals encouraging young directors to join the Directors Guild. And I had a pension, and they provided my health insurance for my family. And, you know, it was just very prestigious. Not everybody gets in the Directors Guild. And so I wanted to make this movie very low budget. And I wanted to primarily use people from Florida because it would be less expensive. And so we filed the paperwork. I think it was in January. Maggie can correct me if I'm wrong. And we got a waiver. Okay, fine, you can do it. I don't want a full crew. I don't want all this overhead and whatever. And, you know, it's kind of a little, you know, found footage type film. We don't need all that. So about 5 days before shooting, they called Maggie, the producer, and said, we're pulling your waiver. And you have to hire from this list of people, primarily New York and Los Angeles people. And then what comes with that, first-class airfare, 5-star hotel, per diem, ground-to-air transportation. And it would have added almost $100,000 to the budget, which it would have broken us. So I offered to step aside and not direct the film because I honestly didn't want to leave the Directors Guild. And now I look back and I realize this was the test God was giving me. If you don't step up and do the right thing, this movie is not going to be done, and it's not going to be done right. So I offered the first assistant director, John, very talented guy. You know John. He's a cinematographer. He's our editor. He's just so gifted. And I said, John, you can direct it, and I'll be around, but I can't direct it. I have this problem with the union. And if you resign, there has to be like a 72-hour period where you give your resignation. You can't just quit and go to work the next day. So Maggie said, we need to call our lawyer, our beloved lawyer, Michael Donaldson, in Hollywood. And it was an emergency. We have to. So Maggie gets me on the phone, and I start to whine about, I want to be in the Directors Guild. We got to figure out. And Michael Donaldson said to me, didn't you work for John Cassavetes? I said, yeah. Didn't you tell me you want to be an independent filmmaker? Right? Isn't this the most passionate film of your life that you've worked on since like 1977? Yeah. Isn't this your faith? Isn't this who you are? Right? He said, so you're telling me you'd rather be in a labor union in Hollywood than direct this movie and be a true independent filmmaker? And I said, well, I need some time to think about it. He goes, well, you got about 5 minutes. Because he said, if I don't send a letter, you resigning today, you can't start shooting on Monday. And I said, but I'm giving up all my rights, money, referrals, everything. He said, okay, we're about 2 minutes in. What's your decision? So I resigned after 29 years in the Directors Guild because I had a vision for how I wanted to make this movie, and my labor union wouldn't let me do it. Wow. So I sent a letter. We resigned. We made the deadline. I got a letter back, very terse letter from the Directors Guild. You're gone. You're out. You're done. And I taped it on my door. We shot the film at the CBS studios here in Palm Beach. And I taped it on my door for everybody to see. But I believe that God was saying to me, how serious are you about this film? Mm-hmm. And I think this is the reason I'm going in this much into the story is I want to inspire young filmmakers to not let other people tell you what movies to make. Mm. And I want to speak to people who think they have faith, or followers of Jesus, or Christian filmmakers. There's only one person you answer to, and that's Jesus Christ. Mm-hmm. You do not answer to a labor union. You do not answer to strangers. You do not answer to investors. And I felt that this movie was an important movie, and I'd spent most of my adult life trying to make this movie. And I wasn't going to let anybody stand in my way, even if I took a huge financial hit to make this movie. And from that moment forward, it inspired the crew, it inspired the cast. Anybody who came to my office had to read that letter. And Scott was very gracious. And Scott said, I will cover whatever money you're losing on this deal. We will find a way. We back you 100%. And I made the film. And I think it made the film as good as it is. And it is the best work I've ever done in my life. Wow. And I think it's because God tested me. And I think we're tested every day. I think there's no such thing as being a part-time disciple of Jesus. You're either in full-time or you're not in. You just can't be a weekend warrior. And I've been tested ever since. And I think we made the correct decision. But it was tough. It was very tough. Maggie, is there anything you want to add to that, since I took away some of your life with that decision?
Yes. Well, I think it's what we call a God thing. In retrospect, it's the best thing that could have happened. And it was challenging at the time, but there's been a lot of challenges. You guys know what it's like making movies. So that was just one of many challenges, and it was a hard one. But I think if I can answer the question before you guys asked me that Scott started out on the hardest thing, I think it was really deciding to do this film. We knew how important it was. We're not we're not making fun of Jesus, we're not making fun of God or Christians. That would be the easy route. We're very serious about this, but we wanted to walk the line between it being a soft Christian Hallmark type of movie, which are great, and they have their place, but we really saw something that was more the struggle that we all go through within ourselves on our faith and following Jesus. And one of the things, it's production can be a rough and tumble world, but Rick would always, remind us, we're making the Jesus tapes, the gig's up. We really need to behave as Christians. And I think we just always kept going back to that. So that even just making the decision to make it and knowing that we'd be changed forever. So that was, and this is where we ended up. And I think, we feel great about that decision.
Very good.
I am sensing you do this out of a God call, and you're being obedient. So this film is really an expression of your faith, which to me makes it more exciting. Mm-hmm. But you also know, in the world of film and critics and people who are going to look at stuff, there's nothing as daunting as trying to put Jesus on the big screen. Mm-hmm. And in some ways, you're going to interview Jesus. So kind of take us through that process a little bit, because that's a biggie. That really is big, because you're going to get reaction. Some people are going to react well, some will not. People react. But let's talk a little bit about the complexity and the seriousness that went into that casting moment and how you were going to portray Jesus in these scenes that we'll see in the movie.
Well, you hit it on the head. I said many times, without Jesus, there is no movie. It doesn't matter what I write. It doesn't matter what we assemble. It doesn't matter what sets we build. If we don't find a Jesus guy, whatever. We looked at every actor in Florida. Nobody, nothing. We then got a Los Angeles talent agent. We had a very successful legendary talent agent in Florida, which wasn't anybody. And we looked all over America, and we kept getting closer, and Scott kept saying, well, we got to get to Jesus. I said, if we don't get the right Jesus, there's no movie. There's no movie. And I watched every movie my wife and I did ever made on Jesus.
You're so right.
Horrible, horrible, horrible movies. We watched these big Hollywood movies rewrite the Bible and Lazarus. And we watched all of these Jesus movies, and I thought, no wonder we only have a third of the world. If they think this guy's Jesus, and where's all the good stuff? And it was gruesome. And I'm sorry, I probably just alienated millions of people, but these Jesus movies, with the exception of Jim Caviezel in The Passion of the Christ, I just didn't see it. Especially today's audience. They're not, this is bad stuff. So it got bleak, and I prayed, and I prayed. And one day Scott, and he can talk about whatever part of it he wants, found an incredible actor out of the country. And before we could even talk about this guy, he had sent us a tape. And the tape literally gave us chills. Maggie and I watched it, and I went, this is Jesus. This guy is, I believe every second of this guy. Scott, the phone rang, and Scott said, have you looked at this tape? I said, we're done. Scott said, well, we got 40 more to look at. I said, we're done. We got Jesus. We got him. And now I'm going to lose another 1 million followers because I've been told not to say this. No, I've been told not to say this. While we were filming, Jesus was in this person's body at least twice. Our hearts beat in rhythm. And I was talking to Jesus Christ at least twice. When I saw it on a 40-foot screen or whatever they are in a big movie theater with 150 people, almost everybody there said, we saw Jesus enter this guy's body and come over him. We saw it. The crew, by the way, atheists, Jews, agnostics, the crew said to me, we saw it. Jesus was on the set. Jesus was talking. It was unbelievable. And the person whose body Jesus possessed could only do it for 3 or 4 hours a day and had to go lay down and was completely spent. I believe that Jesus Christ came to our set and was in this person. And there are things that were said between Jesus and me. Only Jesus could have said those things. And he yelled at me. I challenged him. The picture went off the rails. And people are responding tremendously to the film. We showed it to our attorney, who does not believe in Jesus, who said he couldn't stop thinking about it, and he loves Jesus. We showed it to agnostics and Jews and Hindus, all kinds of different people of faith and Muslims. And a Jewish woman who's in her 80s said to me, my whole life I was taught that Jesus was a false prophet. And she said, I watched the movie and I couldn't disagree with one word that Jesus said. And she said, every morning when I get up at 6 o'clock and I go out on my balcony with my cup of coffee, I look up at God and I go, what's going on? I believe in Jesus. She goes, all my life I was taught he was a false prophet, but I agree with every single thing he said in your movie. And I believe that's the power of our film. It's really Jesus. It's really what he said. And it's not all Hollywooded up. And we're not trying to sell you anything except go read Jesus's words. We're trying to get you, and we're doing it in a theater so it's not chopped up with commercials and interruptions so people can sit. And the movie runs under 90 minutes because we want people to be transfixed by it. And so, we've had, marketing people and publish, oh, don't say this and don't say, well, I don't do talking points. I do Jesus points.
Yeah.
Okay. And Jesus says, tell the truth. And I'm just going to tell the truth about this movie. And if no one comes and we have empty theaters, I did everything I could do to tell the truth. And if people come and see the movie, I think it'll change their lives. And my part of the movie, I'm going to reinvest in making more movies. I want to get the word out. I think there's room in the marketplace. I think families are dying to have a film like this that you can take your grandparents and your grandchildren to. And you can learn about Jesus. That's all I'm doing. This is Jesus. This is what he said. I don't think we're over the target. I don't think we're doing what we should do. I don't think the world and then toxicity in our world and the way we treat each other is acceptable. And I believe I'm authorized to speak for Jesus. And that's what the movie's about.
All right. Let me jump on some of the things you were just saying, because that excites me as a pastor, doing ministry. Let's talk about a little bit about, as we've kind of looked at the film and the making the film and the journey. I believe, and I know you do as well, that in the fullness of time, God's timing is perfect on this thing. So now we're sitting here in 2026, and this idea that started in the 1970s is now coming full circle. You're the creators of this project. You're going to be releasing for the world to see the Jesus tapes. From your perspective, and I understand it's your perspective, but as God has spoken to you along the way, why do you think now, culturally, with all that's going on in the world, where we are today in history, why is this the moment that God has chosen for you to be able to deliver this message to the world?
I believe we're closer to the end of the runway than the beginning of the runway. And I believe that the message has not been delivered to 2/3 of the people on this planet. Mm-hmm. I believe that cinema is the most powerful tool we have. Your show is great. It reaches tons of people. You get hundreds of thousands of viewers. But a movie cuts across every line there is. It's got music, it's got cinematography, it's got art, it's got production design, and it's got acting, and it's got emotion. And the last private place a person can go in this crate. I went and got gas the other day, and the gas pump is talking to me, trying to sell me something. I don't want talking gas pumps. I don't want to live in a world where the gas pump is trying to argue with me and sell me something. I don't want that. But when you go in a movie theater, once you get through the trailers, and hopefully they don't have too many of those stupid commercials, but you're sitting there in that theater for 80 minutes or 90 minutes, I've got your attention, and you can change the world and you can change your life. And that's the beauty of it. Real quick story. I used to teach screenwriting for 9 years in LA. I had a wonderful student, Dr. Douglas Hunt. He went on a round the world safari. He goes to Kathmandu. He spends half a day climbing up a mountain. He gets up there, there's a little village with grass huts and mud huts and people in cloth loins, and they have no electricity. They have no nothing. And they're touring, and they said, okay, it's time to go down the mountain. And in the background, he hears this. He goes, what is that? Oh, we don't know. Let's go down the mountain. And Dr. Hunt said, no, I want to know what that is. And he and his wife go over, and there's a little mud grass hut. And these guys are there in their loincloths and their spears. They've never dealt with Western civilization. And they have a car battery and some jumper cables, and they've hooked up a little television set with a VHS tape underneath it, and they're watching Top Gun, the movie.
Wow.
If you want to reach people in this world, the most effective way to do it, the best missionary, is a motion picture. And that's what I believe. And I believe that's the purpose of my life. My father died at 59. My uncle died at 59. My grandfather died at 59. No male in my family lived past 59. I'm 72. I should have been dead years ago. I was very ill as a child, and I had several experiences. As an adult, God has kept me alive to do what I'm doing right now. I work for God. I'll never be employable in Hollywood. I'll never have a career. I'll never make another secular movie. But God has got me here to do this. And if I did this as good as I think it might be, we really can change the world with cinema.
Yeah. Well, I got to ask this final question here. If our viewers remember only one thing after watching the Jesus tapes, what would you want that one thing to be?
Maggie, we'll start with you. Go.
I think what I would want the audience to remember and think about is that you can peel away all the pomp and circumstance and not really ignore, but still exist within this world that has gone insane. And you can go back to the words of Jesus, and you can pull individual words of Jesus to help you be a better person and help you to get through your life, in an easier way, to help you with things that you're going through. And I just think that one of the things that we've noticed of people who've seen the film, different lines really affect them. So when we were in the studio, there were just some things that came at me just that really blew my mind. And when I watched the film, I go back to, I was like, wow, that's something, I really want to think on today. So I think what I want them to remember is that there are the words of Jesus. You can always go back to those. And we can be, I think one of the big things is to be more childlike And so I just think that it's going to be different things for different people, but I really just want them to know that the words are there, and the words have been there for all these years to help them.
So my take as the business guy, the marketing guy, Rick said to make this out not as a Christian film, but as an entertaining film for everybody. And my hope is a lot of the 2/3 of the people, they're maybe not Jesus people, maybe not religious, they're so inspired, as I was when I read the book about the words of Jesus, that they come out of the theater wanting to share it with anybody and everybody they talk to. And they tell their neighbor, they tell their friend, they tell their family member, go to JesusTapesMovie.com. JesusTapesMovie.com. The site is live today, by the way. You can go to that site. And the reason I say that is we have no marketing budget. And our mission is to reach millions and millions of people. And I don't know if the huge corporations or if Hollywood is once again against these types of movies getting out, but it's a little strange that there's no listing on IMDb. Mm-hmm. It's a little strange that there's no big press about this film. So that's my message, is go to JesusTapesMovie.com and tell everybody if you like the trailer and you like this movie.
And sign up, and we'll send you all the information and where it's playing and how you can get tickets. That's very important. Last, real quick, shortest answer I can give you. Number one, forgive yourself of your own sins and ask for forgiveness. And then forgive everybody that's ever wronged you. Number three, start your life over with Jesus at the center of it, and you're going to be happier than you've ever been in your life. Forgive yourself. Forgive everyone. Start your life over. I don't care how old you are. Form a relationship with Jesus Christ, and you are going to die happy, and you're going to have eternal life. That's my message.
I, sitting here today, now can't wait to see the movie. I was excited before. I'm even more excited now. I'm thrilled to death that you guys would spend this time talking with us. I know our audience is going to be excited about seeing the film. And basically, they're going to have an opportunity to experience Jesus in a fresh, new way and hear the words of Jesus.
Right.
You can't beat that, right? And so thank you for being faithful and staying with it. It would have been easy to quit and not get it done, Rick. And so you kept pushing at it. And Maggie and Scott, thanks for making sure that it got to the big screen. And so we can't wait. Right. To see this with you and to let our audience see it. And so thank you for being here on The Clash today, and we're pumped. It can't get here quick enough.
Thank you, Rick. Thank you, Scott. Thank you, Maggie.
Thank you
it's
so
going to be
much.
awesome.
Thank you.
The Jesus Tapes movie, and you got to see it, but go to JesusTapesMovie.com.
Wow, I can't believe that we're at the end of our first special, and I can't believe that we got to be the world premiere site for the trailer.
Right.
We got to meet the director, writer, producers. Right. I'm pumped about this film.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Man, I think it's gonna be awesome. I have a little short part in the movie, and I'm just looking forward to hit the big screen. I can't wait to do it. And you got to go see this movie because it is awesome. And don't you dare tap out.